I have seen your nephro section of general medicine. So when I knew that the way you teach and how nephrology you have taught in your nephrology section. So the moment I got to know that, I was very happy that now 100 sections are there, and that too in much more detail. So I was very happy. And actually your videos of transplant are actually very excellently made, because they, a person not knowing anything about that also, after watching that video feels a sense that yes, I know this, what the actual topic is. At that time the videos was the whole and sole source of knowledge for me. And actually marrow notes are so smoothly written, you can read it very fast and understand it very fast. So while watching your lectures on nephrology, the main important, the good feeling which I felt is like, this guy is teaching us what actually nephrology means, and not just like MCQ stuff.
Welcome from Kochi. We are actually into the first of a kind of session, I probably would put it, because the recently concluded INISS exam was the first of its kind. It was the first INISS exam in history. And we are having a topper with us, nephrology topper. So it's very special kind of an interview, me personally being a nephrologist. This is a very, very special moment we are having with this Dr. Piyush Panchalwar, who was literally kind of had a rocking performance, rank 3 in the AIMS merit list, and that's not a mean deal. It's like something which is extraordinary. And I feel like this is the time to do something with respect to an interview. So many people have been asking me why I don't come on board for interviews per se. But I think this is the first time that I am also on board for something like this. So that's also very exciting. So let me just introduce to you Dr. Piyush. Piyush is a graduate from the Government Medical College Nagpur, and then went on to do his post-graduation from Sion Medical College Mumbai. And he has just completed his post-graduation in this very year, 2021. So a very fresh candidate, and then I think we'll just discuss in detail about what his preparation strategy was and how he kind of got into this, etc., etc. So that we'll discuss in detail. But let me just, without wasting time, welcome Piyush also. So Piyush, hearty congrats and welcome to this whole session.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for your warm welcome. Thank you.
So Piyush, let me just start off with a very cliche kind of a question, but still I think that's very important, because what were your thoughts on doing a specialty when you were into your MD course? In the beginning, what was your thought process? Did you ever think that you wanted to do a specialty? Or at what point you felt, leave aside cardiology, nephrology, whatever, at what point did you feel that, oh no, I have to study further, I have to do some kind of specialization? Because you have done your MD course from a relatively well-known college, or you can probably put it as one among the top colleges in the country, one among the top colleges in your state. So there are obviously doubts which are almost always lingering in the minds of students as to, is it mandatory? Because you are doing an MD course, which is actually speaking a postgraduate course, and it's a sufficient course in itself, or what we can call as a self-sufficient course. Is it really important to further specialize? So you definitely felt it is important. So what made you think so? At what point you decided that you have to study further?
So I want to say that every medicine person feel that one should not leave medicine his entire life, and doing a super specialty, going for planning for a super specialty, he may lose his general medicine for what he thought he was made for. So initially, when you think like, when you start getting into your MD, like first year and some half of second year, you can say, you feel that you will continue with your MD only for your lifetime. But later on, while practicing, you feel that somewhere your management need to be refined, and that you cannot do for each and every system patients. So somewhere you feel that yes, when you take super specialty reference, or when you feel that somewhere you are lacking, so you need to find a subject where you you feel you are close to medicine also, and you feel that you should have a mastery in some system. So that point I felt that one should go ahead for and think for super specialty. So while for choosing super specialty, every medicine person wants to keep a touch of general medicine also. So I wanted like to have a subject which is close to general medicine as close as possible. So looking at that, I planned for nephrology, which I feel is the closest to general medicine. Looking at the patient, look, you go in every ward, every department, you can say in a government medical college, and you find a sub patient of a patient having problem with their kidneys. So I feel that that was my reason for choosing nephrology and for choosing super specialty.
So that's a wonderful answer. I think I too share similar thoughts. Like many people have asked me the same question, and also many people have asked me as to how I managed to take a lot of the other subjects which are not basically in my zone, which is basically out of nephrology? My answer is I'm able to teach all the subjects primarily because I studied nephrology. There is no other subject in this world, if I had actually pursued for post-graduation, or I'm saying super specialization, would have been able to teach the other subjects, because nephrology is linked to almost every other science in this world. And as you rightly point out, the necessity for doing a super specialty course more than anything else is to refine ourselves. It is an opportunity for us to be a part of a big college for another 3 years and to understand things exactly the way it has to be. Or rather, I would think that it gives us an opportunity to, as he said, refine ourselves, to go for more guideline-based management, to understand certain things in the way it has to be understood. So that is again a wonderful answer. So once you thought that you are obviously going to go ahead with nephrology, what were the feedbacks that you did get from your senior, from your colleagues, or from people inside your college as to what has to be the preparation like? What is the field that you got? Like they were saying, it's very tough to get a nephrology seat, or it's okay, it's easy to get a nephrology seat, or what were the thoughts that actually came across, or what were the kind of reviews that you were getting on the subject and on cracking this exam per se before you started preparing?
So when I thought of planning for going ahead with nephrology, so I first thing that come to my mind was how to start for nephrology. So I was not knowing how to prepare for nephrology, and I was very much sure that this time I wanted to get a central institute to get a more refined, more evidence, more means I want to like more guideline based information rather than evidence based and rather than experience based information. Like in MD, we usually practice like what our seniors used to say, and we go ahead rather than sometimes they may not be the proper guidelines, or sometimes they are not on the right track also, but we do in our institute and in every other institute somewhere some things like that happens. So I wanted my final graduation from an institute where it is almost like what actually is needed to be done and what should be done, and I should do that thing only, not like because of scarcity of anything or because of some factors which we cannot control like that. So while starting preparation, I need to first find out what are the sources available, what are the coachings available, and how to crack the central institute, which I have never done in my past. So this was my start. So somewhere I have started searching and asking my seniors how to go ahead. So in my knowledge, I actually didn't have any. So I started looking for YouTube videos of toppers and all what they studied, and through some sources, through some of my colleagues and seniors, I got to know that FIALI is the book, which comprehensive book which one should read. The one who has cracked, like I have contacted some people in like KEM or somewhere in PGI. So they have all advised me to start with a book called FIALI. So I've started reading that book. So initially I didn't join any classes, nothing. And I've just like in my second year of MD, like second half of second year of MD, you can say I've started reading this textbook. So while preparing, I had also one thing in my mind that while preparing for super specialty, you should not lose your general medicine for what you have come for. Like it sometimes happens that you go off track and you just focus on that subject. So I need to keep that balance also. So for initial 6 months, it took a bit longer for me for my first reading, and also the subject was new, the textbook was new, so everything was new. So later on, I decided to join classes which which I came to know about from my colleagues. So after that, I have joined classes, and then what I used to read, then I used to watch the videos of that same topics, and then I used to try to correlate what actually a nephrologist thinks and what a person thinks after reading the textbook. Sometimes while reading the textbook, you don't understand the clinical aspects, how the person who is already been practicing that subject, and on what points you have to focus like that. So in that way, I started my preparation with the support of MCQs in between whenever I used to get time.
Yeah, so that's the main point that I also want to basically highlight on. That means nephrology is one subject where if you're looking at subject preparation per se, it's much more easier than majority of the other sciences, where you're thinking of reading a big book like Braunwald or thinking of reading a big book like Schlesinger. Herein you are reading a book like FIALI, which is readable for the vast majority of students. It is so well written, it's a very simple book, it's a very easy to understand book. So when you know that, okay, you are actually reading a book which is pretty much readable, that in itself gives you a lot of confidence. So that's the one advantage that FIALI has. Now, the difference between the candidates who get through and the ones who don't get through, I feel, are primarily based on their depth of understanding about FIALI. The questions that come outside FIALI are majority of the time not answered by anyone. So they don't really make much of a difference. The questions that come inside Pihali, because it's not easy to master Pihali. It's easy to read, it's easy to understand, but easy to master means I don't agree. So it's like little difficult. So that is where I want to actually make you, when that's the most important question I probably want to ask you. What do you feel is the difference between a student who sits and reads the textbook? You know that Pihali is the book that we have to read to get through the exam, and somebody who gets an aid from outside, like for example somebody who watches the video and then studies the topic, or somebody who reads from Pihali and tries to understand, say, something like a membranous nephropathy. What do you feel would be the difference?
So while reading a textbook, you just read and you just try to understand what the author trying to tell you. But a person explaining you what he has understood and what he, by his experience, by clinical experience, what he has seen and how actual thing occurs, that actually matters. And by learning from an experienced person, like if I am explaining you something and after that I read, so somewhere my knowledge gets channelized and I can actually rightly focus on what actually is needed for an entrance exam, or for you can say for knowing the topic. So writing a textbook, reading, learning from it is something different, and understanding from it is something different. So you can learn, you can have knowledge, you can understand, but to have knowledge, understanding and knowledge, I somewhere feels a bit difference in that.
Yeah,
After
exactly.
reading you,
That is the point I think which we need to drive in, and I think that is what most of the students who are watching the video also actually take home. The most important part is that how we understand the topic and how we actually just read through and get an idea of the topic are very different. It is our understanding that has to be very solid. And if you look at the INISS questions, those are based on proper depth understanding. So unless and until our understanding is very solid, like they've asked a question on how to approach good pastor, how to treat good pastor, how to think about good pastor when a male comes, when a female comes. So that level or depth of understanding is something which we randomly, when we read the textbook, is never going to come into your system. So that is where I think you need a help. And that is where my next question is. That means, at which point did you actually feel that, okay, I have studied enough of medicine that I need to now focus more on nephrology? Which means every time a student whom we actually ask him, like, okay, I'm interested in nephrology, but then I have not studied anything in medicine during my 3 years. I've not studied anything in medicine. This is what everybody says. So you have actually come to a point, okay, I've studied now enough of medicine. Now we'll shift gears and focus more on nephrology. What is that point where you feel that a student has to change gears? Or when he starts studying medicine, what will you advise? How should he go about with that? And then when should he change gears? How have the videos helped you in medicine per se?
so initially in our MD college, the first year was very hectic. You hardly get any time to have a little rest or something like that. So
Yes.
we start our studying from second year of MD only. So
Yeah.
initially one should not start think of any super specialty. What I feel, after reading for like 6 to 8 months, you get to know, and after seeing patients and after having some understanding of how what actually medicine is rather than what textbooks tell you, then you get to know what super specialty you choose. Then after that point, after 6 to 8 months of your second year MD, you get to know what subject you need to choose. So after that, whenever you have now one clear cut idea that I thought of nephrology. After that clear cut idea, you then have to divide your time like 50 to 50-50 or something like that, whatever is suitable for you. It is not like that you can fully focus on nephrology or you can fully focus on general
Yes.
medicine. It is
So
a hand in hand process.
that's where my question is, those 6 to 8 months that you did medicine, how was your plan? Like second year, somebody is now fresh into second year, has done all the work in first year, feels that he or she is having no knowledge per se, getting some time in second year. How do they actually start? From where do they start? How do they start? How have the videos helped in there? How or what role does Marrow play there? Or how do you actually get on with that once you are deciding that, okay, let me study something?
So once you decide of studying a specialty subject, it is not possible for anyone to cover the complete subject. So you have to have something which is like extracting the juice out of the fruit. So you need to have a plan-based approach. In that, for that you have to know something which is very much essential that every person should know. So in that way, and out of that also, when you start reading, you are not aware. That is like an ocean. You are not aware where you are swimming actually. For in that way, the role of videos and lectures come in your life, come in your preparation, you can say. So like after reading all the glomerulonephritis chapter, after reading, so when a patient actually comes and how do you approach and how what is the protocol need to be followed, you read and you forget, you read and you forget. But when someone tells you, okay, someone has seen that patient, someone has managed that patient, and then someone tells you, then actually you all the textbook things, all what are important gets highlighted in your mind, and then you also feel like you are dealing with that patient. If someone says you like such sorts of patient come and then we give this, then the regimen shifts to this. So this flowchart doesn't teach you. This actually on clinical round or some professor or someone if tells you, then only you can learn. Like
Yeah.
you cannot learn that via flowchart. I feel like that. Even if you
Yeah.
try, you tend to forget that thing.
Yes. So before we actually discuss in detail about your preparation in nephrology, your medicine preparation, like from second year when you started studying, can you just tell me how effectively you utilized the videos, or how much you read and how much you saw and how much you actually kind of struck a balance? How much time do you use to watch medicine videos per se? How much do you read, or you just watch the videos? What is your plan? Not for SS per se, I'm asking, just like when you started studying medicine, how did you start studying?
Okay. So in terms of general medicine, if you ask me, so I have, sir, we medicine students start reading Harrison from third year MBBS, and still third year MD, we keep on reading the same book. So with
Exactly.
a greater level of understanding, we keep on continuing.
Yeah.
So videos like, so there are some of the things in Harrison, like you can say that prolactinoma flowchart approach that you read 10 times, 1,000 times, and still you have also mentioned that in your video, you don't even understand what you have to do at the end of the day. So
Exactly.
at that time, your video plays the role. And there are some topics you actually feel like it is difficult to read from Harrison's, like more of the genetic stuff, less of the clinical stuff, less of the
Yeah.
management stuff. So at that time, video actually plays the role. Other thing is like sometimes you have to study, but you are not able to study for some reasons, like your mind is not clear, you want to
Okay.
relax or you want to do something, but just like you are not able to focus with the textbook. So at that time
Yes.
also video comes in play. Like there is no stop. Like you can continue your preparation even if you are not in that state of mind to read. So
Yeah.
video is at that time, you if you if you listen to that video and then you just go through that chapter, then oh yes, I know everything. Like I have all the entire superficial idea of the chapter just with that 1 hour of video. So actually there the video plays a lot of role.
Yeah, fine. When you watch the videos, did you have the habit of making notes, or you were just happily watching the videos and like going on, or did you write down everything that you studied?
So I do try to write down whenever possible, but somewhere like if I go, if some at places, like if I go home at that time, I'm not in a mood to study. I'm not in a
Yeah.
mood to write also. At that time, I just used to go through like 2 3 videos, and there also I can utilize my time. But if I am sitting in a library, if I have done my reading, I usually used to do my reading work like with a fresh start. I first read the textbook or something, then when my energy levels goes a bit little down, then I shift on to the videos. So this is one more advantage. When you feel that no, you cannot continue more with the reading stuff, then you can do that. And yes, I do try to write all the stuff, all the details, because sometimes now some things are not given, like with someone telling you and explaining you, and you are writing in his stuff. So in his after understanding them, that is altogether different from writing that thing from or noting that notes from textbook. So I always try to have that, keep in mind that I write that down. But most of the time I do that, but not every time.
Okay, what I listen when I listen to a lot of students, what they say is like, see, even to pass this final year MD exam is a huge hurdle for an average student like me. So I am not even thinking of super specialty now. For me to pass this exam is the first criteria. Let me just try to pass the exam first. So you are a person who has passed the exam and cracked NEET or cracked INICET in the same year, in the same 2021 year. You have passed your MD exam and you have cracked this exam as well. So what do you want to actually tell to those students who feel that even passing the exam is a big deal? Then how come I think of even a subject and start preparing like this?
So, sir, you have to, I will say that one have to keep balance. I'll say that, see, MD medicine, till the person get pass, he feels that it is a burden only. Till the
Yeah.
day the result comes, everyone feels that he just pray for one thing, not even distinction, not even top rank, nothing, nothing. He just
Yeah.
have one thing, just Bhagwan pass kara de. So till that thing. But if you have learned, if you have practiced, if you have seen patients, if you are clinically good, then the theory papers are not like that, that you are not able to answer only. So one more thing is like Marrow, yes, Marrow notes and Marrow just soft copy or Marrow notes actually play a role here, because they are like extract of the textbook, and it is very easy to read there, and
Yeah.
easy and also fast also. So there you can like, nobody reads topics which are not asked in the last 10 years, but through Marrow you can at least have a look on those topics. So that is actually very helpful, and if any question comes out of the box, then at least you have an idea of what is being asked and how to approach that answer. And actually, Marrow notes are so smoothly written, you can read it very fast and understand it very fast. That actually is the problem with textbooks. So you
Yeah.
cannot go that fast in a textbook the way you can go with Marrow notes. So there, I feel that the notes play a major role.
So once your results came and once you were done with the exam, so then how did you like kind of decide? You knew that the INISS exams would come in December, so you had around 3 to 3.5 months time. So what kind of a plan did you make? And when did you like really became serious? Because I have done two sets of videos in nephrology. You can see the PG level videos, you can see the SS level videos. So when did you like switch gears to the SS level videos? What was your plan for the last 3 months? How did you utilize the videos? How much time did you study per day on an average?
So when I started my preparation, like 6 to 8 months before my final MD exam, I have already prepared for the super specialty. So
Okay.
in that at that time in May Aims, I gave that May Aims. So I was selected for the interview in that
Yeah.
May Aims only. But I was not eligible because of our exam got delayed because of COVID. So
Yeah.
that time I got selected and got somewhere ranked 12 or 13 or something like that. So
Yeah.
at that time I knew that my preparation was on track. So that
Okay.
was a very much important thing for me, that I was on track. So after that, last 3 months after passing MD, I thought of like I just need to revise what all stuff I know, and also to brush up and to read some topics which I don't know. So last 3 months was like more of videos than text, I can say, because
Yeah.
videos I can finish it fast, and textbook actually was taking a lot of time. So I more shifted towards textbook. And in last 1 month, whatever notes I have prepared, I have just went through those notes, and images, you can say, images and text below images and tables.
Yeah.
That
Great.
was my last month strategy.
Nice. So my next doubt, which many people preparing for nephrology have, is general nephrology. A lot part of general nephrology, as well as vascular diseases, glomerular disease, etc., are things which we have an idea about when we study our MD from a good center. So when it comes to proper preparation, the main challenging aspects are dialysis and transplant, and also pregnancy related stuff, etc., which are not common things which we study during our MD. So, how did the videos help you in that, and what was your strategy with respect to learning these topics which are pretty new, including peritoneal dialysis, chemodialysis, the newer forms, CVHD, plasma exchange, etc. So, all that is a little tough at the MD level. So, how did the videos help you in that way, and what was your strategy?
So the portion which like dialysis and transplant, that for that actually for dialysis people read other textbook, and I didn't have that much time for spending that amount of time, because I have already have lot of stuff to read and to revise also. So in that case, I just continued whatever was given clearly, and at that time I can say that all different altogether new arena was there for, like transplant for me. So in that at that time the videos was the whole and sole source of knowledge for me. And actually your videos of transplant are actually very excellently made, because they a person not knowing anything about that also, after watching that video, feels a sense that yes, I know this what the actual topic is. And after that you go for reading, then have a better understanding and directly switch on to MCUs, and need not to go for any other textbook or any other reference, you can say.
Yeah, so that is another point that I too want to actually highlight on. That means when I was preparing for the entrance exam, it was quite mandatory to read Dogitas for dialysis and Danovich for transplant. But these days, it's not mandatory. The questions are also not such a great standard. We can easily manage if you have a reasonable understanding of Bihari, and if you watch the videos. Videos are mostly based on Dogitas. As far as dialysis is concerned, they are mostly based on Dogitas, and transplant is more or less based on Danovich. So that is, I think, more than enough. And I think, as you said, if you focus on that properly, then there won't be much of an issue. And my next question for you is like, when you watch a video per se, you've decided that okay, this much video I'm going to watch. Did you have a target per se in mind, that when you are watching like this much I have to finish today, or whatever is enough is enough? I do understand that I'm happy, or you want to say like within 3 days I will watch this much, then I have to watch next. So did you have a target like that, or you were just watching?
So in that, I'll say that I never did pressure study. So
Okay.
keeping a target and achieving that thing is was never made for me like that. I
Yeah.
always like I keep a plan in my mind. I try to do that, but as far as I know myself, I never did pressure study. So if I am able to do four lectures or 5 lectures, then that is okay for me. And sometimes I go beyond what I've planned for also. So I never did pressure study. I never did a restricted target. So that one thing which every candidate cracking an entrance exam do, like having a timetable, following that, trying to do complete the task of the plan for the day. I never did that such thing. So I just went on with the flow of the subject. That's all I can say.
Exactly. So that's something again. I think, as you've said very rightly, we are all basically grown-up people. Somebody writing an exam, super specialty exam, is not a small kid. So it's not necessary for us to put a timetable and to see to it whether we stick on to the timetable or this much we study per day. That's not required. See, in general, having an idea and being able to actually eliminate the options and come to the answer is more or less the way to go forward. Because obviously the questions are tough. Many of the questions we ourselves don't know the answer. So then obviously the only way that we can answer those questions is at least by eliminating. And they're going to ask you lots and lots of newer stuff, which majority of the people are not going to answer also. And as you can see over here, your score, what was your score? Your score was 48, right? What was your
Yes,
score?
sir. Yes, sir.
Your score was
Yeah, 48,
48.
sir.
48 on 80 actually means that you have got around 56, 57 questions right and the rest
Yes,
wrong.
sir.
Again,
Yes.
highlights the fact that you have the liberty to get more than 20, 22 questions wrong. Even if you get 20,
Yes, sir.
22 questions wrong, still you are going to come inside the first 3 or 4. So, which that means that the questions are generally going to be on the tougher side. And as we've seen with nephrology, from a single topic, that is rare glomerular disease, including fibrillary glomerulonephritis, fibronectin glomerulopathy, and even questions on immunotactoid glomerulonephritis, which are things which most of the nephrologists would have seen once in their life. So you do get questions from different zones, nodular glomerulosclerosis on biopsy and stuff. So many things we got. So those things are not practical for us to actually learn. It is not possible for any student to master fibrillary glomerulonephritis and go for the exam. So only thing that you can actually do is to have a reasonable idea. And that reasonable understanding of those topics, when you read, the key things may not actually go into our system. So I think that is where the videos can actually come of use. So
Yes,
this is
sir.
the first time we have come up with this platform called Marrow Neat SS. So this is a first time. This is the first year. All the videos have been shot in 2021 itself, and the videos were released somewhere around July. So you have actually started your preparation before. So when you suddenly got the videos in July, did you actually change your mode of preparation? Were you surprised when you saw so many videos altogether, or you were just happy that okay, I got this much more and I can actually study more?
So actually, I got to know that I was not knowing that we got that super specialty portion in marrow segment also. So I have seen your nephro section of general medicine. So when I knew that the way you teach and how nephrology you have taught in your nephrology section. So the moment I got to know that, I was very happy that now 100 sections are there, and that too in much more detail. So I was very happy. So the main thing, it turned out like I have read stuff, but I didn't knew many things even after reading also. So when I saw that same stuff through your lectures, I got actually a better idea and better knowledge. And after that, I once again I read that same stuff with a better understanding, you can say. So that videos were very much helpful in creating an impact of the same knowledge which I already tried to acquire but was not able to. So that way the video played an important role.
Great. So, like when you sat for the exam, how was the original exam feel like? You were writing like an exam. I know you have written this exam once before, but that was different. This INI-SS exam you're writing for the first time. So, INI-SS exam paper, when you got in hand and when you had these 50 questions from nephrology and 30 questions from medicine, what was your general feeling like? Did you feel that this is overboard at many places, or you knew that okay, these are tough questions, but majority people won't be able to answer? What is your feeling like when you got the paper and you're doing the paper?
So whenever I write any exam, I don't think as a paper as a whole, but I try to focus on every single question. So I don't know whether I don't keep in mind that I was not able to answer the past question or whether I will be able to answer the next question. I just try to focus on that very particular question and try to answer. And I don't keep that thing in my mind, get whether this is question from general medicine or this is from a specialty or a thing. So I know that I have passed MD and I supposed to know this answer also. I keep my mind telling that somewhere I have read that thing and my mind will help me in answering that thing. And nephrology, yes, I have read that stuff and somewhere in my mind that answer is also stored. And I try to find hint from the question or from the answers, options which are given. So I don't segregate my mind in like this is coming from general medicine or this is coming from. And while preparing also, I don't prepare like that. This can be asked in MCQ. I just go on reading stuff, and the things which I feel as important and that can be clinically used, I try to remember them more than the facts and figures. But yes, the table content and the images and the lines below the images, I try to memorize that.
Yeah, because
So
most
no
of the
other.
questions, most of the questions if you see had two options which were very easy, which anyone could eliminate, and two options which were very tough. So that is where I think our common sense had to prevail. Kinetic elimination techniques had to prevail, and
Yes.
more than that, we needed to be like very smart with respect to thinking in those particular questions. And I think that is where the difference was actually made. Because nobody can teach that Hammersmith regime, nobody can actually come and teach many of the things were asked for the exam. So at least if you know that, okay, this is what young male comes, a smoker who has got pulmonary hemorrhage, that should make us think more than a female. So those kind of things nobody can teach you, but you have to show the diligence sitting in the exam hall that will help you to, help you prevail those kind of scenarios. And now my next question, which is again something which many people ask, like when do you really feel that okay, I have to do this course from an institute itself? Or you ever felt like, no, this is my third course, my final course, I have to get into an institute itself? Most of the people would be very happy, like the majority of the students would be really happy getting an nephrology seat somewhere in any medical college in the country, government or private. Many people are happy getting a DNP in nephrology. But when did you feel that, okay, no, I have to, and you have done MBBS and MD both from really good colleges. So when did you feel that, no, I have to go that extra bar, I have to go that extra mile and get into an institute? What was the feeling behind that?
So actually, when I was practicing, when I was doing MD, so I've seen that people telling on their experience rather than the evidence. In
Yeah.
government colleges in Maharashtra, this is very common. That is not a new thing that people, and we also follow this. They are not wrong also, but somewhere something like approach, and somewhere something like we somewhere skipped such some steps. Therefore, sometimes we are not able to diagnose, and the patient sometimes may not have could have a better outcome also. So I had that thing in my mind right from MBBS times, that a central institute is many times better than that government Maharashtra institute, you can say. So while doing MD, I have that realization. I have seen that thing also somewhere, like you just know stuff because your seniors have told, or you just follow the what you have been told. So
Yeah.
there somewhere there is a difference between experience based and evidence based. So I
Yeah.
had that thing, and the infrastructure also, you can say the central institutes are much more stronger in infrastructure and lab workups.
Yeah.
So there, that time I felt that.
Yeah, so I think it also reminds me of a very, very similar scenario that I had. So I also did MBBS from a government college. Then I went for MD again, a government college. We were talking about most of the experiences that our teachers had, etc., etc. But my nephrology chief then, and even now nephrology chief at Stanley Medical College, Dr. Edwin Fernando, he was the first person who I really got surprised to see, because he was always talking about KDIGO says this, KDOKI says this. So this was a huge surprise for me. UKPDS study was saying like this, DCCT trial said this. So I was first time actually listening to such a person in my life. That means somebody who's quoting studies, somebody who's quoting trials, and then talking on the basis of that. When you tell him something, then he will ask you what is the evidence. So this was actually a huge surprise. But that really made me understand that that is the way we need to talk. And even though if you watch my videos, also I followed a very similar
Yeah,
narrative.
yeah, yes, of course.
It is not based on my opinion. My opinion, probably at the end, I might just give two sentences saying that this is my personal opinion. But whatever we have discussed are essentially what KDIGO has said. So that kind of an understanding is what I think everyone should try and achieve, because we are not just here to just explain to someone about what we feel. That is not that's not what is important. What is important is what is guideline based and how we can actually kind of flex the guideline and maneuver the guideline to suit the need of our own patient. So that is essentially what we are trying to do over here. And that is a point that you have very well made. It's so important for us to try and get into the best center possible. Now, two things which I want to really emphasize on with respect to nephrology is that nephrology is an up and changing science. More than up and running, it is running and changing colors. So it's now become more or less like a semi-interventional specialty. We are having a course called Intervention Nephrology now. And my own friend Jayanavash has completed Intervention Nephrology Fellowship from Korea and is now back and working at Ramchandra in Chennai. So we can see that there are interventional nephrologists. So for us to get an idea of what is intervention, how these interventions are being done, and to get a proper hands-on exposure, we need to go to those centers where this is happening. Without going to these centers where this is happening, you basically can't be doing, because generally at the time of our MD course, it's more of a theoretical kind of a course, an academic kind of a course, where we examine patients more. We do less, we study more. But nephrology is one course where you have to be really knowing how to do, because how to do is very important here. Being good with biopsy, being good with actually putting a catheter, everything for that matter really is very, very important. And second thing to understand is that once you pass out nephrology, you're standing mostly by yourself. So how to set up a dialysis, how to actually start, how to take somebody to dialysis, how to monitor during the course of a dialysis, and be updated about newer techniques, including SLED, CBBHD, CBBHDF, everything about CRRT, plasma exchange. So all that is very important. So that much of an exposure you get only from a really good center. Many people take nephrology thinking it is a continuation of medicine, but I would like to maybe correct it and say that one third of it is related to medicine. Two-thirds of it is not related to medicine. Two-thirds of it is in a way different. Transplant is another science by itself. Dialysis is another science by itself, and general nephrology is more or less very similar to medicine. So, in a way, it's a very interesting specialty, extremely challenging specialty, and also a specialty which makes us learn a lot of things day by day, day by day, day by day. So, I think your option, choosing nephrology is a great option. We see a lot of people nowadays, I think, running behind endocrine. That's obviously the most sought after specialty. But I personally feel that when you look at the challenges that a nephrologist faces on a day-to-day basis and the satisfaction that nephrology gives, is totally of another level. So that is essentially what I do. Now, this being the first time that we have launched an app like this, and this being a platform for students to learn, what do you feel can be actually made better in the app? Or what do you feel like can be much more tailored towards the need of the student?
So while watching your lectures on nephrology, the main important, the good feeling which I felt is like this guy is teaching us what actually nephrology means, and not just like MCQ stuff. The way you start your lectures, you explain the topic, you tell the clinical presentation, and then you start with like how was the patient arrived and with what complaints he came, and then ultimately what he turned out to be, and then you add things to it, so it like becomes a comprehensive. Like I am seeing the patient myself. I feel like that. So to add on to this, you have also covered MCQs from exams also. So one thing I wanted to, if that can be possible, like to include questions from all the central institute. While giving aims for twice, I felt that there are some questions which were repeats. There are some topics which were totally same as it is was repeated, and not and there are some topics which are untouched also in both the aims. What I felt. So to add on, there should be 1 or 2 lectures on recall based lectures, like on last 5 years aims question, last 3 years aims question. So that will actually help to more channelize the preparation. What I think.
Yeah. Actually, what is different now is like when I was giving the exam, we had multiple exams. Like we used to go once around the country and come back. I remember traveling to Maharashtra to write Maharashtra entrance, to Gujarat to write Gujarat entrance, again going to Kolkata to write Kolkata entrance, going twice to Kolkata to write, attend the Kolkata interview, going to Rajasthan, going to AIMS, PGI, STPGI, CMC, Vedur, St. John's, Kerala. So it was like I've traveled throughout the country writing different exams. So then each exam had a glitch, or we knew that, okay, this exam could actually be cracked with this kind of a strategy. But now that is not applicable because AIMS has a different strategy, PGI has a different strategy, JIPAR has a different strategy. So now we basically cannot actually kind of say that this is the way forward. I felt this being the first 10 years of the exam, the AIMS people put the paper. I think next time it may be the PGI people putting the paper. Okay. So then the paper will be having a totally different color. This year, as you said, most of the questions, those were repeats, were actually from the AIMS papers. So it's like, yes, I think it is going to be PGI. The next time I think it's going to be JIPMER. So there are going to be changes like that. So that is probably, I feel, the way to go about. Now, so it's been a great discussion. Now, let me just ask you finally, I get just your pieces of advice for 2 sets of students. One who are going to give NEET this time. That means the exam that is coming up in January. So we hardly have around 10 or 15 days. So they may have given INISS, may have been depressed because they didn't clear or whatever. So that group. Second group who are now in their final year of MD, who are about to give their MD final year exams, probably like you in March, May, or whatever, as per COVID guidelines. So what is your piece of advice to both these kind of students who are interested in nephrology, wanting to actually crack nephrology exam?
So for the first set of student, I would like to say that it is not like that you have not cleared the exam. Doesn't tell you that you have not prepared for the exam. It is just that day game, you can say sometimes. It is like your preparation. You just need to channelize a bit and try to, like, last 10 to 15 days, just brush up whatever knowledge you have, and just try to get the maximum hint from the question only. It is not like that you have not prepared, or you are that maybe your wrong day, you can say. And not getting selected is somewhere not related to learning or knowing nephrology. That is altogether different thing. Nephrology is altogether different subject, and cracking an exam is, I feel, is altogether different ball game, you can say. So if you are passionate for nephrology, you will never get bored while reading nephrology. For cracking exam, you only need to just rectify what you have done wrong, and that you only can tell yourself the best. And for second set of student, you can say that it is not like that, like the one who are giving MD. So some people may have that feeling that I should have prepared for like last 6 months also, or I should have done, now I have changed that subject, so I have wasted my time. It is not like that. I would like to say that every person on this, every person is in his own time zone. So you are never lagging behind, or you are never leading someone. You are there at your own pace. So whenever you feel that this is the right time, and whenever you are very much clear about your subject, you start preparing. And it is not like that, like you need a lot, like months and months of preparation. 3 to 6 months of good preparation will definitely give you the best result. So it is never late, and just have a clear mindset for what
Yeah.
you are going for.
I think that is the biggest quality that a nephrologist also needs to have. A nephrologist should be very clear with respect to his thoughts. What is that single most important quality that a nephrologist needs to have? If you ask me, he should be very good with respect to making decisions. Decision making is the most important part. So if you're good at making decisions and if you're good at handling your team, then you will obviously going to become a good nephrologist. So this decision making is more or less out of clarity in thoughts. So the more clarity you have with respect to your thoughts, you will be better with respect to decision making, and naturally you become a better nephrologist. So exactly what you pointed out also. So that is what I need to tell the other students who are preparing, especially the ones who are preparing for next year, that they can actually watch medicine and be comfortable with medicine at their own pace. And this whole subject thing, which is cardiology or nephrology or whatever, as Nishant was also telling yesterday, it needs only 3 or 4 months time, maximum 3 or 4 months time. So inside 3 or 4 months, you can do your subject. So don't bother too much about the subject. Try being good with medicine. Try see as many patients with respect to medicine as possible, and then just keep slowly increasing your confidence. So that is essentially what he has also tried to say. So it was wonderful talking with you, Piyush. And I think you are actually somebody who is going to become a rocking nephrologist because you basically have what is called clarity in thoughts. And I feel people who are having more and more clarity in thoughts to try and become nephrologists, because what you need as a nephrologist is essentially clarity in thoughts. And once you become maybe a head of the department kind of a thing, your ability to lead people and ability to actually bring those people with you and take them forward so that your department as such grows. So wonderful talking to you. All the best,
Thank you so
and
much.
all the best for all your endeavors with respect to nephrology. Thank you.
Pleasure talking to you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Bye.